Yes, I have consent to participate in the interview. So my name is Georgia Pamela Smith, um, married now, so Costa, Georgia Pamela Costa, and my date of birth is 26/12/1990, and my place of birth was London, actually, in Greenwich, and then moved down to Kent. The hospital I was born in, Greenwich Hospital, is not a hospital anymore. I think it's actually a housing development now, but they built a new hospital not too far away, so I've lived in this area for 6 years now, nearly 7. Yeah, I think that um, I like that a lot of people are in the same stage of life as me. I think that it's a very family. It's a family hub, really, and I think that it doesn't matter what age the children are, but I think there's a lot of families here that are, you know, very normal working families that have young children and have that kind of busy life and everything. It just makes me feel as if I fit in a lot. And I think knowing that you are surrounded by people that are living a very similar daily life to yourself, I think. So I run my own company, my own organisation called Arts Point, and it has two sides of the company. So one side is we provide dance and arts sessions in 4 other organisations, so like schools and care homes and day centres and workplaces. And then the other side of the company is we do a lot of event management and project management, and we either work in collaboration or for other companies that are nearby, and we have clients, or we run a few projects of our own that is driven and designed by our team of artists. Lay down, Sash. Lay down. Is she in the way now? Lay down.
No, no,
You sure? It's okay? Oh, bless her. With the bone in her mouth. Sorry, I'll start that again. So we did a session with a chef called Daniel. I believe that he's based in Gravesend. And the reason why we were partnered with him was because his wife is from Madeira, so is from a kind of Portuguese culture. And my husband's family is Portuguese, and we've been together for around 15 years. So I feel as if it's part of my culture as well now. I feel as if I've embraced that Portuguese heritage and lifestyle and traditions and things like that. And obviously our daughter is now half Portuguese, so it's nice to embrace that. But we were partnered with Daniel because of his knowledge and skill around that kind of cuisine, I guess. And we also had another lady join us, and she actually lived in America. She was from America, but she had kind of Cuban heritage as well. So we just thought that was actually quite a nice mix, in that there is a lot of similarities like between the cultures, but actually there is a lot of spice difference and a lot of flavor difference. So that was a really lovely session. So the things that we cooked was, I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact name of it. I'd have to look it up. But we cooked a very traditional Portuguese dish that is like a cod and potato based dish. Um, and the cod, actually, my mother-in-law bought over from Portugal. So it is actually cod that we cooked that was from Portugal, because she brings a lot with her and she freezes it, and then that's what we used here. So that was a really nice dish to do, and it's a very comforting. It's comfort food. It's a very comforting dish that you would have. It's a very family friendly dish that you would have. And then we also did like a pastry that was of. It was Alina who joined us, and she is Cuban, so it was a very Cuban-based dish. But we did a sweet and a savoury version, which I thought was quite nice, of this kind of puff pastry thing. And then we also made a sandwich as well. So it was I made 2 sandwiches. So one was called a bifana, which is a Portuguese sandwich, and that is made with pork that is spiced in a certain way, and it has mustard and a particular style of Portuguese bread. And then we also made a Cuban version of it as well. So that was how we transitioned the kind of bifana into a Cuban style, and we made a different sort of sandwich, but with very similar ingredients. But that one had like a cheese in it and things like that, and it was actually sweeter than what the other one was. So yeah, I think that's all the things that we made. Oh, sorry, we made polenta chips as well. We made polenta chips in the air fryer. I'm English. My parents are both English as well. So um, I have obviously married Hugo, who is Portuguese. We've been together for 15 years though. So I feel as if my the culture that I am the life I'm living now, if that makes sense. I feel like it's been a very big part of my overall life, if that makes sense, because it's not like it's just been a few years, it's been a long time. So from I think we were first together when I was a teenager. I was only 19, so I think my adult life has had that mixed culture already. And I think that the biggest culture difference, I think it's interesting. You spoke about families a minute ago. Um, and I think for me, it was very common to spend a lot of time with my grandparents. So every weekend we would go to one set of grandparents, then the next weekend you would go to the other set of grandparents, and you were always seeing them like that. Whereas Hugo, and it was very common, very like years and years ago, it was very very common for in Portugal for the parents to go and work in a different country, and the children were left with their grandparents for a very young age. So Hugo was actually his parents moved to England when he was only 6 months old, and he then lived with his grandparents until he was 5. And then when he was old enough, they then brought him to England. So he's been here since he was 5 anyway. And he doesn't even really have an accent or anything like that. He's fluent in Portuguese, but he has been here since such a young age that he's very fluent in English and things like that. And I think now having a child, there are things that I really like from either side. I like that she will have that mix. I like that she is learning Portuguese as well. Obviously, we are in quite a dominant English speaking household, only because one, she's obviously with me quite a lot of the time, but I do understand a lot of Portuguese, so I do really try to uh, even say a few words to her, or she can count to 10 in Portuguese, or things like that. But Hugo is he will speak to his mum in Portuguese, but to be honest, he's quite lazy with it. So he won't always just speak in Portuguese around her, which we're trying to encourage a bit more now. So I think that that's really nice. I like that she knows a lot, I think, about either side. And even like her grandparents on that side, she calls them like avó and avó, which is nan and granddad in Portuguese. So I think it's nice that she even calls them by their Portuguese titles and things, and they speak to her in Portuguese and things. So yeah, I think that there is, but actually, even though we are from very different cultures, the I think the moral standing and the values, I think, are the same. So they're very family, orientated, and really, I think um, we've got quite a high work ethic, so we try and work hard for what we have. I think we're very encouraging to us, the people around us. So I think the values, I think, are the same, which is quite important, I think, for me. And it's not a mixed signal to Olivia. It's our daughter. That is the same either side, and I think that that is quite noticeable. Um, and then I think probably even just coming back to the project that we are talking about like the dishes and things like that. I think the thing that Hugo probably doesn't like about me very much is the fact that I don't like a lot of seafood. I don't like a lot of fish, things like that. But in Portuguese culture, that is a very big part of the cuisine. Really, is fish and seafood and dishes that have a lot of that kind of food in, and even things like olives and lots of strong flavors like vinegar and things like that. That is, I think, where our differences are. But we do try and incorporate a lot of different things into the meals that we cook, and do borrow from English and Portuguese. Well, is that we don't use a lot of spice, we don't use a lot of flavor. I can eat plain chicken, like it doesn't matter to me at all. And we always joke because to her, she's like, how can you just eat meat plain like that with no flavor or anything? I'm like, but I like the flavor of chicken, just chicken. That's okay. Like, if you are adding garlic or lemon or whatever it is, that's not chicken, that's lemon chicken. That's like, you're adding spice, you're adding, or like, putting paprika or garlic or I don't know, anything else that she quite likes to use, like cumin and things like that. And it's all really nice flavor. I like eating that kind of thing, but I can also eat very plain. And sometimes when I cook for Hugo, he's like, did you season the meat? I'm like, yes, because I made, this kind of Mediterranean style chicken today rather than just chicken. Like, I can eat very plain. I'm, okay with that. But actually, I think I've heard that it's actually when the reason for using lots of spice is because it was a way of preserving food. So when you have a lower quality meat, really, that is why you use a lot of spices, because it covers the taste, and that is why spices were originally used, because it was to preserve meat. Whereas, because we haven't had to do that here, we haven't grown up in like a war recently, or as in this country. Um, that we haven't had to preserve meat in that way. We can just buy fresh meat, as we have that luxury of buying fresh meat as we want to. So spice is not always a necessity. It's more of a flavor that we like to add on rather than using it to preserve meat. Our family Christmas cake, I make it in October every year, and then you keep it wrapped in brown paper, and then you feed it with alcohol every 2 weeks to keep it moist. And the longer you leave it, the better it tastes. And it's very traditional here to have fruit cake as well as part of a wedding cake. So for our wedding last year, my mum, the top, because thing is that I like fruit cake, but it's not my favourite. Not many people actually like fruit cake. So instead of having like a very big tier of it, I just had my small one at the top, which was fruit. And that fruit cake, my mum, so the wedding was in May, she made it around Christmas time, so it had that amount of time to I don't know what the word is, but she kept feeding it, and it was it was really nice. It was like really rich. I think that you just didn't have the access to you know to take away food and things like that. You didn't have that. But I think that what is important about this is that it is reinforcing the idea of um, uh, that sometimes homemade things can also be convenient as well. So we, at the moment, we live a life of convenience. We go for the easiest options, or we order something in because we're like, oh gosh, no, I can't cook today, I don't have time for that. Or we go for what's convenient, and that's not always the healthiest option. Whereas I think that a cookbook like this, and we need to learn from the generations that we've come from, in that there are convenient things we can do there. Actually, it's probably easier to learn that you can use different elements of what you already have in your house, and you can create a very tasty family friendly meal, and you can use what you already have. It doesn't always have to be picking up a takeaway menu for that's the answer. And I think that this project is a very good way of not only learning of the generations we've come from, and from our heritage, but it's also about learning from each other. It's a way that we've all come together to put all of our skills and knowledge in one place that can then help families moving forward to make good, healthy decisions for them and their families. Recently, I have looked into more vegetarian dishes because for two reasons really. One is that I think I could actually probably, I like meat, but I could actually probably be a vegetarian. I actually like vegetarian food. I like I don't think there's any vegetables I don't like and things. But also meat is very expensive. So learning a few very good family friendly vegetarian options that you can replace, it's important in my family's diet. It's important for us to have meat and things like that. We think that we get a lot of nutrients from that, but it is quite a cost effective way if we learn a few vegetarian options, because meat is very expensive. But also, I think that learning or the ways in which we just use vegetables and cook them, and put them into different meals, because you get to the end of the week, and I think it's very good for to prevent waste, like so without wasting food. So you get to the end of the week, you have one carrot and one of this and one of that, and you think, okay, how can I make a meal out of what I have left? And I think that that is such an important part of this project as well. In that I know that there are some workshops based around that in terms of lowering food wastage, because food is expensive. It's it's very difficult to grow and things like, not difficult, but not many people home grow. So we need to learn to use what we do buy to its fullest and make a meal out of everything we do buy, and every opportunity really. And I think that learning like a few very good vegetarian options, I think would be very good for that. Yes, yeah, I give consent for the material to be used.